Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of WaveChats. Today we have another fantastic guest, an entrepreneur. This guy is, I don't know what to say. Ugochukwu Aronu is the founder and CEO of Zen Finance. He's the founder of Google.com. He's the founder of Wicript. He's the founder of Ugo. I'm almost losing count. Please help us. What are the other companies you founded? and
Well,
how do you cope with all of this?
yeah. Well, it's well for me actually it's more about picking problems to solve. And as you solve some problems,
Mhm.
you realize that okay, that there are actually other challenges that also need to be solved, right? And for me, I love to build things, right? I love to make things. I
Mhm.
like to ensure that things are. I just like to see things work, and I'm somewhat impatient to probably wait for someone else to do something, right? Because most times you were like, okay, maybe another person might do this, and I kind of get bored waiting or quite impatient. So I try to solve
Mhm.
these problems, and I also find it very exciting where, okay, at least I'm trying to do something really, right? No matter how many these problems
Yeah.
are, I just try to get myself involved and try to solve them. Even if it doesn't work, then okay, we know that okay, we've tried our best, right, to try to solve the problems. But yes, that's basically it. And okay, yeah, to help you, yeah, I co-founded Quiver Games, so we also make video games, right?
Mhm.
And like not very like complex video games. We also have a research lab. So we do like purely research. It's not profit based. It's purely just R&D. We've been
Okay.
doing that for over 2 years now. Yeah, because just trying to
Mhm.
do something that or find things that probably you won't necessarily have to start a startup to do. Just purely R&D.
To
Yeah, so
do.
these are like yeah. So these are like basic things. Well, I won't call them basic, but these are like different problems that we're currently solving at scale. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's exciting, and I think that the world is there for the taking. It's just for us to see, identify problems and solve them. But yeah, of course, it can be very, very challenging. It is actually very,
Interesting.
yeah, it's very, very challenging. But that's what makes it much
Interesting.
more interesting. Exactly. That's what makes it much more
Hmm.
interesting. The challenges, yeah, are
Hmm.
the things that make it interesting. And, there's always this idea that most businesses or most people should probably just do one thing. And for me, I don't really yeah, I believe
Mhm.
most regular people can do that, but for me, I don't really have that, like I said earlier, that type
Not for irregular people like you.
exactly, yeah. So I find it at times it wouldn't, I would be really, really uncomfortable, and I'll be very bored doing one thing. I
Interesting.
know I've had a lot of people say, well, I remember those early days, maybe when you're trying to pitch to investors, and maybe some people are like, oh, you're doing different things. And I'm like, yes, Elon Musk is doing different things. And they're like, you're not Elon Musk. And I'm like, okay, watch me, that kind of thing. Well, now I really don't have to pitch to
so
investors anymore. It's not necessary for me
so
anymore.
let's talk about so you also founded another mobile game platform, right?
Yeah. Recently, we
Apart from the
just
video game.
launched it. Hammer Games, yes, it's purely for mobile games. Yes, we just
Mhm.
launched it like 2 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that you did with Obi Kubana.
Yes, Obi Kubana, exactly.
Hmm.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So talk to me about that a bit. What's that about?
Hello, wanted to
Yeah.
work on something really. It's been like 2 years plus. I mean, we've just been having conversations around, tech generally, because he's not really inclined towards tech
Mm-hmm.
directly. Yeah, because Obi has also
Mm-hmm.
even helped us at some point, talk about Wicript, promote it. You just, just mentioning what we're doing, basically, trying to promote what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so it was then that we
Mm-hmm.
decided, okay, to look at something that would also be really great in terms of entertainment, for him, basically, right? Yeah. So it's he
Mm-hmm.
is, like, if I would call it, the main founder or something like that, right? But yeah, so but when he
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mentioned about tech to me, I was really excited, and I said, okay, that I would work on something, I would think around something. So that's how the whole idea for Hammer Games came. So the idea of Hammer Games is to create a gaming platform, not like a direct video game, but a gaming platform for
Mm-hmm.
simple games, mostly hyper casual games first, that would allow people to deploy or
Mm-hmm.
publish their games, more like a publishing platform. But of course, we had to launch with some simple games that people could play, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And mostly geared towards, the African narrative. It's an interactive gaming platform, mostly geared towards the African narrative. So we launched with a couple of games, and the idea again is to also encourage developers, right? Mobile game developers to be able to build games and contribute. As I speak to you, we have, I think, about 3 or 4 games that we're now reviewing from video game developers in Nigeria, simple games, right? So the idea is to allow
Mm-hmm.
people make games, maybe games you can make in a month, 2 months, very easy to make games, and then we deploy it on the platform. That way, we also create a sort of platform that allows, some a different type of engineers, really game engineers, to deploy their things. Because usually in Nigeria and Africa, it's mostly fintech, financial technology. And personally, I kick against it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally kick against it because it's like cliche. Everyone is doing fintech, but people can do something different, right? And I strongly
Mm-hmm.
advocate for that, doing something different. And I think video gaming is cool. Nigeria is already big with in entertainment, right? So I think video gaming is great. And people can also do things. Video games can be different. They are very complex ones, like the one like my initially founded game company Quiver Games is making. They make like what we do there is very complex games, like something like Call of Duty. So like, for example, we're working for a game for about 3 years plus, right? So those
Mm.
games require a lot of investments. It's not something you can do in a few weeks or a few months, right? So it's a totally different business to handle those kind of heavy weight kind of games. But yeah, this is something much
Mm-hmm.
simpler. So we're trying to encourage developers to do something in gaming, and with Obi's influence in terms of entertainment, right? We can easily sort of scale, this, get use distribution networks or networks that are available to him to sort of scale this gaming platform. So that's basically what we're doing with Hammer Games, and we launched it about 2 months ago. Still fairly new, right? I think we've acquired more than 20 something K players now, right? But we're still very, very new.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're still very new, and we
Interesting.
hope to do a whole lot more. Yeah.
Okay. So, there's something you said that's interesting, right? Considering that your your I don't know if it's your biggest, but you correct me, right? Considering that your biggest startup to date, right, is
Mhm.
Zen Finance, which is like a fintech, and yet you say that you are bored with people with the entire fintech thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's quite an interesting take, right? Um, it brings me to, maybe you need to let me know, what would you consider as your biggest what's your biggest startup to date in your view?
Okay, so maybe, yeah, I would like to make that point clear. It might sound quite contradictory that, okay, um, the
Mhm.
finance startup I have is, I have a finance startup, Zen Finance, but then I'm saying people should. So let me break it down. Something like Zen Finance is big, so we're the biggest DeFi
Mhm.
project in Africa, really, right? But then it's not your typical fintech company. As I speak to you,
Yeah.
our technology is something that no one in Africa has actually built that type of financial technology in years, right? In
Mhm.
DeFi, really, truth be
Mhm.
told. And our projects are open source. Those things cost a lot of money. And Our users
Okay.
are, we have a lot of users from Africa, but we also have lots of users or customers or retail investors in different parts of the world, right? So that system is not your typical financial fintech system. And also, as I speak to you, we've actually made a bigger bet in Zen Finance, where we are now building our own blockchain, our own layer one blockchain. Those things cost a lot of money. It's not
Interesting.
something you do with, oh, maybe 100K, 500K. It costs you a lot of money. It requires a lot of infrastructure. You need to be able to have a huge community. There's a whole lot going on there, right? And the reason we're doing it is that we're trying to, in terms of finance is
Interesting.
changing, right? The whole idea for finance is changing. It's not your typical, fintech apps. And that's basically what I kick against. Your typical fintech apps, people saying I'm sending and receiving money. It doesn't make any much sense to me, right? Or maybe people saying I'm doing offline payments, or what would I, USSD payments and all those things. Everybody does it.
Mm-hmm.
There's already an existing infrastructure.
Inclusion,
Power.
financial inclusion.
Exactly. The truth is that you cannot do that better than banks. You can't do it better than telcos, right? So saying you're
Okay.
innovating around that space is basically a waste of someone's time, to be very honest, in this time
Okay.
and age. So you need to be able, if
But
you're doing
that,
something in, yeah,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. I
So
wanted to say, but that's what a lot of the investors are interested in today.
no. So that's what investors used to be interested in, because these investors are also playing the whole valuation game. They know when to. It's like a sort
Mm,
of Ponzi scheme. They know when to cash out and all that. It's a big. They
mm-hmm,
already know. But now, after the terrible downturn in the market last year, a lot of investors stopped writing checks. So many of your
mm-hmm,
typical regular startups died. And that's why investors stop
mm-hmm,
giving them extra money. Your sending and receiving money platforms, all of them are dead, right? Platforms that really don't have any real path to generating
mm-hmm.
revenue. They don't really understand, the dynamics of the space that they exist in. So that's why I sort of encourage people, even if you want to do finance, as a new person, do something related to the blockchain, but let it not. There are also typical blockchain companies, not companies, maybe exchanges, people who do buying and selling of crypto. It's also not interesting. Everybody can
Mm-hmm.
do that, right? So you need to do something different. And that's why we also
Mm-hmm.
always decided that, look, for us, we'll do something different, from core technology development, like our DeFi infrastructure, now to building our own chain. And it's not just building our own chain because we want to do it. There's something called asset tokenization. If you look at the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, these guys own trillions of dollars
Yeah.
worth of assets. So we are now creating a system to allow anyone anywhere in the world convert their assets to tokens, and this will bring massive liquidity, on chain, bring millions of people on chain. So we are sort of building that infrastructure to support this. It's not easy. Like I said, it's a big bet. We believe it's going to work, but why we're able to take that decision is because we've done
Yeah.
something that is out of the ordinary in finance, and we've built a lot of goodwill, gotten good relationship, done an innovation around that space, and we're like, okay, fine, let us even make it larger, right? So that's basically why we are sort of taking that bet. But then, for your founder who wants to start something, going that route might be very difficult unless you have serious financial backing, right? And that's basically why
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, if you're going to go into fintech, you have to do something different. And if you're going to do something different, usually it might require a lot of finance, which a lot of finance founders might not have. But looking at
Mm-hmm.
other spaces, giving you an example like Wicript, for example, Wicript is telco. We are innovating in the telecommunication space, and it's extremely complex. For the past, since we launched Wicript in 2018, we've not had one single competitor in Africa, right? And why is that? It's because of the complexity of the tech. It's not something your typical founder can just wake up and build. As I also speak to you, it's not public yet, but we are actually building the operating system for one of the biggest telcos in Africa, right? So these things take
Okay.
an enormous amount of mental resources, not really financial resources now, because Wicript has its own operating system, right? Then so many values that we built into your regular, like the regular routers, Wicript devices are much more advanced. Our operating systems are more advanced than your regular operating systems. And that's why that telco gave us the job to build their next version of their OS. I'm actually making a trip tomorrow to do the final presentation because we're basically done, right? So these are the things that I always encourage founders to do. Delve into spaces that are somewhat unknown or they are very difficult. I admire people like Elon Musk very well. Recently, someone like Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he tells founders that he wishes them pain and suffering. Why is that? To be
Mm-hmm.
honest, to be able to really do anything that is exceptional, you need to go through that path of pain. But most times, it's as if people, I mean, by default, human beings want to go through the path of least resistance. But as a founder, and if you really want to do something groundbreaking, you need to do something different. And groundbreaking technologies or companies are hard to do, right? And yeah, so that's basically it. Like for when I advise people. So to answer your question about which one for me is the most successful, I think I even as till now, I also think we are still very early. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but in terms of something like should I say revenue and all that. So I probably think Zend, right? But then Wicript is doing really well in terms of revenue as well. So, but maybe just
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of margin, Zend is because Zend has, Zend was launched at a global stage much earlier, but Wicript actually started first. Funny enough, right? Most people don't know Wicript started first, but because of the complexity of the tech,
Interesting.
doing the hardware, doing the OS, it was just crazy, and all those things were done in Enugu here.
Mm.
It's crazy. Just myself and like two other, it was just
I'm
insane,
coming. I'm coming. I'm coming to that part.
okay.
I'm coming to that
Yeah.
part, right? So I was checking out. I was checking out Zen last week. I think it was on Friday. I was checking. I checked on Binance, and I noticed that the total trading as at that day was about $23 million, right? And I was also checking how much has been raised so far. I think I had a bit of, and I think it's 3.5 million cumulatively, if I'm correct, right?
Actually,
And
2 point.
then
Zen.
something hit me.
No, no, go on, go on, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, something hit me when I saw the article on Zen on Yahoo, right? And I'm like, really? So that brings me to the key question I'm trying to ask, right? All of this was being done from Enugu,
Yeah.
right? How has it been? I mean, how has it been for you doing all of these things from Enugu?
Yeah, so for me, building from Enugu has really been, I'll use the word refreshing. It's been great. It's something I would wish for any founder in Nigeria to do, right? Building from a place like Enugu, maybe
Mm,
not exactly Enugu, but a place that, you just have a serene environment. You wake up, things are quiet, right? It's not noisy, excuse me, and it's not so
mhm,
large when it comes to things like maybe commerce and all that. So you can easily, and then there is an abundance of human resources, young people. Enugu is surrounded by more than 8 universities. Within the Enugu city, you have about 8 universities. So there is an abundance of young
mm,
talent. Enugu is cheap and all that. And it's cheap for people to just exist and to stay, build, and try different things. It's also a very good testing ground for startups. Like for us, I've been building professionally now for 9 plus years. I've been doing everything from Enugu. Enugu is a place where you can try something. If it doesn't work, you go back to your drawing board. It doesn't matter because you're not probably doing it at scale, right? Initially, which is very important for when you're starting a business. You really cannot say you're building at scale. Maybe you're building for 1 billion people or for 10 million people. It doesn't make sense. You can build for the first 50 people, right? The first 100 people. And you can do that kind of thing in a place like Enugu and get good feedback, right? You can also hire people from here and you basically just pay like a little amount of money, especially as a startup who, if you have not raised money, right? Even if you have raised money, you can also you need to be frugal, right? You need to be very somewhat I won't use the word I don't want to use the word miserly, but you just need to be a little bit prudent, right, when it comes to spending. So these are the kind of things you're able
Mm.
to do in a place like Enugu, because you see young talents, people who want to prove themselves, right? So you also get that energy. So I think Enugu is really great. I've had a great time building from here. I mean, some of the little
Mhm.
challenges that you might have would be okay. Early on, then I think far back as 2016, 2017, you will not be able to getting access to investors was hard, but I think it's a good thing, right? Because having too many investors, someone spoils the market. So I know in Enugu, if we're looking at startups that have raised money the most, it's us. If we look at combined, I think we've raised, let's say, like Zen has raised like 2.5 million or thereabout. Wicript has raised like 1.5 million. But this was done back in 2020, 2021. We have actually generated even like a lot of more money in running our business. And now I encourage founders a lot. Whenever I hear things like, oh, I'm shutting down my business, it doesn't make sense to me, because I mean, if we're using the culture from the east, that's from here, you have a lot of commercial people around, Enugu, Anambra, and all that, and
Yeah.
you see most people here even start their businesses using loans. And now, because there's no
Mhm.
more free capital in the market, you see a lot of you hardly even see new startups come out. I asked some of my colleagues the other day, when last did they hear raise announcements? TechCrunch from Nigeria or Africa, they are no longer announcing raises anymore. No one is raising 2 million, 5 million, 10 million anymore. It's really hard to hear about fundraising in the last, let's say, 18 months. And the truth is that there isn't capital. And
Mhm.
what problem, what that's, one of the biggest challenges that founders are now facing is that they feel that they always need money to scale or to start a business. But that's not the case. I'll give you something like Wicript. We did not even
Mhm.
raise a till we wanted to now launch even a token. We're already generating revenue. We're already paying salaries, running the business from selling our devices. That's the first set of devices that we had and all that. So it's something I try to encourage founders now to do. I'm not saying you shouldn't raise money, but the thing is, even if you're going to raise money, don't raise money
Mhm.
with the mindset of trying to keep on, to continuously raise, because that's the whole Silicon Valley mentality. But it doesn't work here in
Mm.
Nigeria. It cannot work. It worked at
Mhm.
some point for founders, but now it can't work, because most founders depend on the
Mhm.
future. They want to keep raising money, Series F, Series J, Series G, Series I. It doesn't make sense, to me. And for us from this part of the world,
Okay.
you need to generate actual money. You need to have cash flow. Your business needs to make money one way or the other. So that's why I think also building from Enugu is great, because if you don't have access to all those investors, what you need to do is to put your head down, make sure you're building something that people want, something that people can pay for, or something that will be worth investing in when it's live. That's the thing, because I also follow some big VCs, and you see people, they will say things like, um, that they no longer invest in weak ideas. I mean, I saw that thing 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it was about 2 years ago, when the whole capital was drying up, and it made a lot of sense to me. They don't want to invest in weak ideas. And weak ideas I mean, are ideas that probably anybody can just wake up and do, right? And yeah, so for me, I always
Yeah.
advise founders as well. I tell, for example, like myself, even till last week, we always keep turning down investors, right? Because at the stage we're not trying to raise money. And I always keep getting feedback. Maybe for Wicript, for Zen, you see investors
Mhm.
on my Telegram, maybe on Twitter, oh, sending emails, we want to fund you, we want to do this. And I'm like, we don't want to raise any money, right? Because it's not just about raising money. Is People throw money at companies they feel, of course, can generate, or maybe companies that have potential, they've seen that have stood the test of time. But for us right now, we actually do not need to raise that money. What we need is to make more money as a business and even now invest in people who are maybe around here and all that. Yeah, so doing business from here teaches you a lot because it gives you access to some things and you need to work hard to get those things. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. I think it's interesting that you say that because um, I agree with you. Just to be clear, I agree with you. And even the program I run, the Scale with Uche and Uche program I run, the focus is on the focus is on you getting um, customers. All right,
Exactly.
make money, make revenue. All right. I tell them if you make revenue, you will get investors knocking on your doors.
Exactly.
That's simple. That's as simple as that. But I'm interested in understanding how you think about exit, right? Because the traditional VCs depend on this additional raises eventually and the valuations that
Yeah.
follow to be able to exit, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so how do you think about exit for your current investors as well?
Okay, so let me put it this way. So when it comes to valuations, exits, I'll put it like this. Yes, investors depend on exits for them to leave, right? Or for you
Mm-hmm.
to raise another round for them to leave. But then
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example with our own businesses. So uh, most our investors really are purely crypto investors, right? I think we just probably have like one or two equity investors, but they also have it's both ways. So they have equity and the crypto tokens. So what happens is that they are already liquid because their tokens have been released to them. So they can cash in and at any time they can wait, whatever it is. So they are basically settled. But then it has a sort of it's difficult because what it for us then because we're a private company, but with the crypto stuff, it became public because your tokens are there, they are listed. People can, like you said, you saw I think
Yes.
about 20 million trading volume. Yes, it was crazy in 24 hours or thereabout.
Yes.
Then the token had about 20 something million dollars trading volume. It was crazy, right? But then there are also very bad times. Bad times like when the market is terrible, like the stock
Mm-hmm.
market, it's crazy, right? So these are the kind of things that so for our own project, the investors are already liquid, they have their tokens. So it's not like maybe they are waiting for another round to sort of exit. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, exits are good. Let's say you're doing an equity-based startup, exits are good. And I think we even need more exits here, but I'll have to say something, right? The exits
Yeah.
we need, here might not be your $1 billion exit initially, right? You might. I was expecting, like
Mm-hmm.
I am expecting to see
Mm-hmm.
smaller, maybe like $10 million, maybe $5 million, $10 million, something, or even 1 million, something small, right? Depending on what the company is doing, right? That way, it also encourages investors, it encourages
Yeah.
people to hold more, right? Yeah, so I strongly support exits, and I also strongly support that founders also think about their investors, about earning returns. For example, I have our own initial investors like the likes of Binance. Binance was the first company to write us a check, right? Then it was $150,000 then,
Mm-hmm.
like in 2019, right? So people like Binance, I also expect, I mean, even at our current, with the tokens that they have, they've made more than 20 or 30 times that amount, more than 30 or 40 times. But, it's left to them to liquidate whenever they want and all that. But I also think we can even create way more value for these investors, early stage investors,
Mm-hmm.
institutional or retail investors, right? So it's very important for founders to also think about that, not just think about themselves and all that. But yes, exits are very, very important. And I'm also looking for situations where, in with time, we should be able to acquire companies, right? So people can exit. So let's say we can buy up a company, they can exit or something of that sort. Because it's also important to when you do that kind of thing, it makes your market a lot. It makes your market much more attractive, right? It makes people much more liquid. I realized that I think it was last year. Some companies here acquired other companies, but at undisclosed fees. I really don't know why, but I think it's important that maybe they
Mm-hmm.
disclose some of these fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it helps the market. Because I think the last acquisition that made sense here
Yeah.
that grew the value was Paystack, which was great. But since Paystack, I haven't heard of any other acquisition
Yeah.
that they reported the amount of money that was spent. I mean, I don't always check the news that much. I mean that more, but maybe there have been maybe there's been some
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
acquisition mentioned, but I don't know, right? But yeah, I strongly believe that exits are good, and if we can have more exits, that would be really great.
Interesting. So thank you. So we have some more minutes, right? So let's talk a bit about you now invest in startups. How many startups have you invested in, and how are they doing
Yeah.
location wise, geographical wise? Where are they?
Okay, so we've invested in let me see, about five different startups. Um, One, our biggest
Mm-hmm.
investment, Aaron. Aaron is in Enugu here. They do drones, artificial intelligence, really brilliant founder. Yeah, we invested in laser pay, but laser pay shut down because Emmanuel Njoko was my staff, right? Early days from uni before
Yeah.
he left, he dropped out. He was worked with us for I think about 2 years or thereabouts. Really great guy. But yeah, so also Gamic. Gamic is backed by Binance too. They are an esports company, and we also have a pharmaceutical company we invested in. They're really doing that, but the founder is based in Lagos and Finland, so they're really doing well. Mostly B2B to C. They have like pharmaceutical tech, tracking drugs, manufacturing process and everything. Yes. Then one more, I think Creation Energy. It's an energy startup in Enugu as well. We invested in them like 3 years ago, and yeah, really great guys working on renewable energy, some interesting biocells, and it's really great. For our lab, because one thing our lab does is we do a lot of research. So if for companies like Creation Energy, we also have some research around biotech and energy and all that. So we also use some of our technical expertise to also work with some of these startups, right, to help them scale. Yeah, so these are the startups we've invested in. 90% of them are here, right? I think just one isn't in Enugu, but the others are here in Enugu.
So let me ask you about your beginning. But before then, how is ogugo.com?
Yeah,
Because
always, always.
my
Okay.
first interaction, my yeah, that was my first interaction with you guys back at the hackathon,
At the hackathon, okay.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how is ogugo.com doing today? Yeah.
Ongo.com is doing well. Actually, Ongo.com is still the biggest logistics or e-commerce company here in Enugu. Funny enough, right? We are turning 7 years this
Okay.
year. Ongo is a profitable company, right? And we've also expanded to other smaller spaces in Enugu, smaller cities in Enugu. Ongo is doing really well. Logistics here is really hard, but I'm very happy we have an amazing team, and that's one thing that allows me to to try different things, right? Because I really don't see myself so much as a businessman or an entrepreneur. I'm more into the engineering or the science. That's what makes me excited, right? But of course, I have to always delve into the business part, follow up with things because it requires it's part of my job description. Okay. And so yeah, Ogo is doing really well, and yes, it's like I said, it's a profitable business. It's being managed by an amazing team, and we are currently, doing like growing in
Mm-hmm.
Enugu at a very good pace. In fact, one of the biggest challenges we're even having is, the demand. The demand is a lot, and because most people,
Interesting.
e-commerce logistics, deliveries, most people think it's easy, but it's really hard. And we've been here over the years because you always see companies start and then they die off. They come and they go, they come and go. One of the biggest things Google has done now, even the government, like federal government establishments, even partner with Google to handle deliveries. That's how big, or like the trust level of Google, right? Even the Ministry of Transport uh,
Interesting.
has like good relationship with Google. So many states and federal establishments trust Google with delivering, sensitive documents and information because we've proven ourselves. We also have partnerships with existing big, logistics companies, right? Like the likes of, let's say um, what's their name, like the Jumias, the Conga, some of these guys, right? For last mile distribution, they also partner with Google for
Yeah.
last mile. When things come in here, we work with them. So
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. So we've done, even with some people, some vehicle, not maybe e-commerce companies, but some of these courier services, right? A lot of courier services also partner with Google for anything in Enugu because it's a household name in Enugu. Our bikes are everywhere. We also now have third-party deliveries, right, where other people can now use their vehicles to deliver. So we're scaling, and Obu has not raised a dime. No, it was just the Ford Foundation funding that we got, the grant we got, $20,000 that we got
Mhm.
back then. That's the only external funding that's got. Ogo has not had to raise any money. It's not been easy,
Interesting.
but we actually have been growing well. COVID was a turning point. In fact, during COVID, because we had to shut down for some time because we really didn't know how to deal with the problem. Then people were on our social media telling us that if we are not ready to run the business, that they will buy the business over from us. They were asking for they were saying who is the owner of this business, that this is the best time to come out. So yeah, at that point, but we had to give it some time though, because we didn't want to endanger the lives of the delivery people. So, but after like a month, 2 months, we decided to come out, and
Mm-hmm.
we really, grew very well in that from that point. And yeah, even with the whole petrol, the way Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
is, inconsistent policies, petrol rising and all that. But still, we deliver others really well, and I'm very, very. When I mean, I'm very proud of of the company. Like I don't even know how to express it. But yes, always doing well, and I'm very happy.
Awesome. Let me ask you, how many people collectively on your team, on your payroll, as in today, not just on Google, collectively, how many people?
Um, I think we have a little bit, maybe about 100 people, or there, about a little bit under 100, right? Including,
Interesting.
all the riders,
Interesting.
everybody.
It's been an interesting conversation so far, and I'm quite glad that we're having this conversation. I was basically going to ask you, typically when you have this type of conversation, people want to know who you are, your beginning, and all of that. But I deliberately want to ask you that question as second to last question, right? Um,
Okay.
what do you want to walk us through your beginning? Do you want to walk us through, your growing up, and what has led you to become the person you are today? Do you want to share some things? Because and I say that because it's easy for people to sit down and say he has a silver spoon, so he can afford to play around with ideas and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
That's the case, right?
Mhm. Yeah, usually. So most people always think I come from one rich home, and maybe they
Mm-hmm.
think maybe one senator. So, at times people even see me and ask me, "Do you live in Nigeria? That you don't look like you live in Nigeria." And I tell them, "Look, I live in
Mhm.
Enugu State. Maybe once in a while I go to Lagos. Then of course I travel to different parts of the world purely for business. So, but
Mhm.
yes, okay. So my childhood really, I was born in Enugu. I'm from Anambra State, and I was born in Enugu,
Okay.
and yeah, I come from a very, very, modest, simple family of we are four boys. I'm the last
Okay.
of the four boys. My parents are civil servants. My dad now is retired. He's a retired chartered accountant. My mom is a professor of medicine. She's a professor in UNTH. A lot of people know her there as Dr. Aronu. So
Mhm.
as she has growing up, she has always had her clinic, her little clinic, but eventually grew to become. She has seen. I think she has more than 7,000 patients. I know growing up, I remember, okay, when last year, when Wicript came first in the world in the um, Saudi Arabia event, Leap. So
Yeah.
Wicript was number one in the world and we won $150,000. So it was the minister, former minister, Dr. Isa Pantami, that shared it on his tweets because I didn't even see it till I got back to, I think I was at Ethiopia coming back. So I now saw people were messaging me. So I now saw the thing. So when I went through his tweet, I saw some people writing things like, "Oh, I know this boy. His mom was my doctor when I was small." I get that a
Mhm.
lot in it because my mom treated, and she still treats a lot of children because she's a pediatrician, right? So she treats
Pediatrician.
children. Yeah, still now in her hospital, she treats lots of children, right? So there's so many people that when I mention my name, are like, "Oh,
Mm.
you're Dr. Aaron's son." I'm like, "Yes." So I come from that kind of home. Growing up, my dad loves to farm. He's a chartered accountant, so he's good with math. So we always had to. My brothers also really, really brilliant people. I was actually the one that was not as brilliant as them, to be honest, because I was quite stubborn growing up. So
Mhm.
yeah, so we were all like really studied really well. My brothers were really good, so eventually I was able to pick up, learning from them. They're super smart guys, so and like now most of them are not here. One is a software engineer in Canada, one is a doctor in the US, the other one is a physiotherapist. Yeah, just is about to move to the UK as well. So these guys are good. So I come from a family where you know you need to read, you need to study. Then my dad also likes farming, right? So
Mhm.
we used to go to the farm as kids very well. So we understood the value for money. I mean, we understood what it meant to do hard labor. Then we would farm, yam, plantain. We had a barn, in Igbo it's called Obaji.
Mhm.
I would tie yam, we would, sort of peel corn, sort of remove the seedlings from the corn, right? Those the corn seeds,
Yeah.
right? So you remove it in Igbo, it's called a wachoka, and then you use it to
Mhm.
make. When you finish the thing, they will soak it, use it to make pap
Pap.
and all. You take the yam to some women that grind. Sorry, the cassava. We also
Yeah.
we harvest cassava. It's called the ibuapu. So we take the
Mhm.
cassava, we peel the cassava in my family house. Then take it to some women in Ababa. For people who are in Enugu, you go to Ababa. I'll carry it in my dad's 504, load it in his boot, go to Ababa and give it to those women. That place is so smelly and very
Mm.
dirty. But nobody cares. My dad will tell you, "Ngwa, all of you, all his sons, we are four boys." So they always call him like, the father of army people. He will carry us, will offload the stuff, and then give it to those women. After they make the gari, we now go back and carry it. So it was so growing up. It's not like, oh, we didn't lack anything per se, but it was a simple family and we understood the value for money. And me, from all those experience, then I also had like really, really good uncles and aunts, right? People that I learned a lot from, especially like from my mom's side, really good with business. Because my mom is from Unewi, so they also had like really good business people. They're very vast. Anytime I had holidays, I'll go there to their houses in Lagos, spend time, learn. My dad is also like good in real estate because he worked at Anambra State Housing, so he also grew to the managing director level at some point, which is the highest level then. But he worked there for I think 23 or 24 years, civil servant. He would always go from Enugu to Anambra State every day and he would come back from Enugu to Anambra every day and he would come back. He could sleep there, but he didn't. He always had to come back to his family. So that consistency for me. These are like things gradually as kids we could pick. And he always, of course, worked with us during like assignments and all that. So I grew up in a home that, okay, my dad was there, my mom, and my dad is, he's a no nonsense person. He's very strict, very, very strict. So he will always go have koboko in his boot. So in case you mess up, they will flog you. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
steady. So that's the kind of background I have. And of course, he always encouraged us to study. So he would buy bicycle for you when you come first. So because me, I was very stubborn, then I didn't come first till primary five, but I really wanted that bicycle. So that's why I studied really hard. And when I got first, he bought me the bicycle. So he encouraged us to read. So he encouraged us to read very, very well. All my other brothers had the bicycle because they would come first early on. So they will have bicycle, but I will ride their own. I wanted my own. So yeah, these are like things that encourage. So that encouraged us to study. So now, like for me,
Yeah.
I also see everything as something that if you want it so much, you understand, you get them. Of course, from school, from university, I did University of Nigeria, Soka, UNN, where I studied electronics engineering.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a very good experience for us to understand, or for me to understand that, everything, you have to do everything yourself because, mostly it's theoretical, but you would see amazing lecturers or teachers that would push you on your own if you want to be pushed. Not that it's not a useless school at all, but you would learn on your own if you want to learn. They were very good. I took programming seriously because I went to UNN, right? Exactly. Although when I finished secondary school here in Enugu, I went to Federal Government College, Enugu. Yeah, when I finished, I did a small program with
Mm-hmm.
Digital Dream. I always owe someone like Chooks. Yeah, Chooks is really great.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
so
True said. That's true said, Doga.
Dog, exactly. Yeah. So I did a small 3 months program before I entered university. So it helped me a lot. So yeah, that's been my background. And what else? What else? Yeah, yeah. So that's basically from university, of
There's
course.
this story.
Now,
There's this story you told once of how you had to intern at Schlumberger or something. Was it
no, oh no,
Schlumberger?
at KPMG. Oh yeah, yeah. It was.
Mm-hmm.
You mean at KPMG? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I did internship at
The
KPMG.
scholar, the scholarship, and then the internship.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So that was university. So in university, right? I was on
Mm-hmm.
scholarship. So that was another thing that helped me a lot. So I was on scholarship. So when I entered, so my elder brother, that is a software engineer now in Canada, he told me a lot about scholarships. Then told me that look, I can make money from that. And I was like, me, I come from a background where look, my job is I'm looking for ways to make money. So I was like, so I can write exams and make money. He said yes. So I said okay. What are the exams? For me, studying is not my problem. I can read once I'm interested in something. I can read it
Yeah.
and make sure I understand every single thing about it. So I saw the scholarships, Chevron, Total. I was on
Yeah.
those scholarships. I got those scholarships easily because I just had to study, and it's purely based on merit. Yeah. So you don't need to know anybody, and for me, that's what I like. I like things that are purely based on merit. So I know that okay, it's my work that is speaking for me, right? Although the world now doesn't really work that way, but at the end of the day, if you're going to rise to a certain point, even if you might know some people, your work still has to do the final speaking. If you don't have a good product or something, nobody is going to work with you, right?
Yeah.
Because they are also putting their own businesses on the line. Yeah. So that's basically what helped me in school. So I got scholarships, then from there got into KPMG. I didn't even know KPMG was, a big company because while I was in UNN then, the application came out. I just felt, what's this? Let me just reach out to them. So I reached out. They invited me, funny enough, for the interview in Lagos. I was like, no. So I don't know why I had that sort of, I don't know if I should say arrogance, but they invited me really to come for an interview in Lagos. And I sent an email to them telling them that it was too far, that can't I do the interview remotely. Then remote work wasn't something that was, or remote stuff wasn't popular. It was like 2014.
Yeah.
And they replied, they said, okay, fine. Funny enough, some people actually traveled to do the interview. And at the end of the day, I was the only one from my set that got the placement. It was so funny. A lot of people traveled to write exams and all that. And when I got into KPMG, I was the only person from a public university in that set of interns. Every people were coming from MIT, from Babcock, Covenant, Cornell, big universities in America and all that. I was the only one from the public university. It was quite intimidating at some point. I wouldn't lie, right? Because seeing all these kids from all these schools. But I really, really did very well at KPMG, to be honest, because that was the time I started doing things around ethical hacking. And like for me, I like to, once I learn something, I take it seriously. So I did a lot of vulnerability assessment and penetration tests then. And the banks we were pen testing didn't know I was an intern, right? They actually thought I was a full staff, because I have this my height and then the experience I brought, like doing the work. So I was really, someone that would always take on big challenges regardless. Although I would do it afraid, because it's not like I'm not afraid of these things, but I was someone who would always take on this challenge. Yes. So, but I loved taking the challenge. That's why,
Interesting.
even for me now, no matter how big the challenge is, I always go ahead and just try it out. Things don't always work out the way I expect, but somehow, you know, it's always good at the end. Yeah. So that's I think that's it basically about like me
Awesome.
growing up. Yeah.
What do you see about your companies? Where do you see the country? Where do you see the economy? Where do you see the region? What's in your mind? What do you see? And
Okay.
I
So
think,
what?
sorry, let me just add this so that you can answer it at once. Let me add this so you can answer at once, right? Um, what are the opportunities you see both within your project for people within both within the ecosystem and beyond, especially young people within the region? What are the opportunities you see as well, right? Even within your projects.
Okay. Okay, so I'll start by saying what I see as the vision. So what I see as the vision first for the country is I think the country, the overall trajectory is upwards, it's positive. Yeah, but the rate at which the rate at which that positivity emerges mm, might be a slow rate, right? But I mean, it's a country we're talking about, right? So the rate at which that positivity would emerge would be quite slow. But then coming down to the state or the region, like we're in the southeast, I actually see the same positivity, but at a you know higher delta, or higher rate, if I'll put it that way, right? The rate at which we're going to advance in the southeast is going to be much faster than the rate at which the entire country will advance. And why I'm saying that is because we are now seeing people speak up a lot more. Younger people are taking the bull by the horn. We are holding our leaders accountable. We are seeing that, yes, we're trying to let people know that, okay, um, we are seeing what is happening and we deserve a lot more than what we were getting before, right? That's why I think the delta over time really in the current in our region here will be much larger, right? It will be much, the rate is going to be much bigger than that of the entire country, because all the regions cannot develop at the same pace, right? So that's my own vision for the state. Then for my self and for our companies, I actually see a future where, in terms of technology here, where we are making a difference, but not really for us here, not really for the maybe building to solve problems here, but having a much global approach, which is what we're already doing, right? We are able to survive today because a lot of our revenue doesn't come from Nigeria. It's actually on Google that has purely Nigerian customers. every all the other businesses like Zend and Wicript purely majority of the over 90% of revenue doesn't come from Nigeria. Because if you were to be coming from Nigeria, we would have shut down, like based on the current business model we have. That's the truth, right? So um, it means that our goal really is to be able to generate, of course, money from other parts of the world and bring it and develop here. So I see us building very heavy infrastructure. Not like we're not replacing the government, but we're doing something. I see us doing things that a company should be able to do. I admire great companies like Tesla, SpaceX, Microsoft, Apple. And why I admire these guys, I also admire someone like Donald Trump. I'm not talking about he's not your regular startup or tech person, but I study different people, and why I like some of these people. They are people that innovate or make heavy changes in their societies, right? Look at someone like Trump doing crazy stuff in New York, saying, okay, I'm going to do this building, and the building is going to cost like maybe $100 million or something, and it's going to I forgot I think it's the Commodore, the hotel or something, and it's going to improve the economy. Same way you look at Microsoft, you look at Google, let's say you look at Google, you look at Apple, these guys in Silicon Valley, the way they are generating the way their companies have improved those economies. Like I was saying that California, for example, has more value, right? Or it generates way more money, or I think has a higher GDP than the entire Africa. Okay, so these are things that you have to look at, and it, these are basic things that companies can do. Um, to improve a society. Also, even if we want to go back in time, you can look at the likes of J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, Vanderbilt, and Steel. These people, did some amazing work. Their companies basically shaped America, the way America is. And, now we really have a great opportunity to somewhat replicate those things. And that's how I look at it. My own vision is for us to be able to build necessary infrastructure, build people, not just even infrastructure that can also improve our society or improve our immediate environment. And I think the future is actually positive. That's why I always tell people that I'm not planning to leave, Nigeria, right? Because I have a lot of friends, a lot of people in the tech space that have Japad per se, and I don't blame them really. I don't actually blame them, but I said to myself that no matter how long it takes, I'm not going to leave this country, and we will keep improving because I love the country a lot. I love where I'm from. I love to wake up and see my parents, see friends around, and all that. I travel often, and I really don't like to stay out of Nigeria for a long time. So I like it here. So also now looking at the value really, or how what the value for the young people, or what this ecosystem, what the impact, or where I see the ecosystem, how people will be improved in this, or what people can do, or improve on, based on this our ecosystem. I actually think um, there is a whole lot of value really for people to derive from here. And how I would say it is the future for founders. I think this is actually the best time for founders to build. There's always something that I don't know if you've heard this saying. They say that tough time creates tough people, then tough people create good times create weak people create tough times create hard people. The cycle continues. Now yes, we're in tough times,
Mhm.
and it's going to create tough founders, and that's why I always encourage founders to be resilient, right, to be tough, because this period, if the whole founders mentality before was maybe you just start, you raise money, cushy jobs, things that maybe you're riding one big car, or you're in one office with
Yeah.
practitioners, some very nice things and all that. But it's not bad, but things have changed and times are different. So I always just encourage them to be tough as possible, right? And I believe that this environment will shape founders properly.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So this, I think overall the future is looking bright.
So it's been awesome. It's been awesome talking to you. I must confess. Um, obviously, we cannot. This conversation cannot end, right?
Yeah,
Because there's so much more to talk about.
yeah,
But we have to be able to make this shorter.
yeah.
But I like to use this opportunity to say that. So typically we have our conference in October, 3rd and 4th of October, and we're looking forward to having a lot of people um, come around, a lot of founders, a lot of fantastic, inspirational founders like you, and even investors come around, and we hope you find time to be there, um, you know, and so yeah, so that we can continue the conversations from there. So hopefully we
Yeah.
can talk off camera, but I mean, it's an opportunity for
I'm
us, for
going to
more
be.
people to actually get to feel you and to have. Oh
I'm
yeah,
happy to.
thanks.
What
That's
part of the country? What part of the country are we going
no
to be
Port
doing?
Harcourt.
Okay.
No, we're in Port Harcourt. We're in Port Harcourt, third and fourth. So thank you so
I
much,
think.
Ugo, for coming. We would. I'm sure this is not the last conversation we would have, because there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to learn from what you're doing. I have to confess that I'm inspired by the things that you guys are doing, and we want to be able to make sure that that is. I mean, from the hackathon way back in about 2018,
Yeah.
2018, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, with with a lot of things we've seen. I've seen the trajectory. I've seen you guys grow. I've seen you do different things, and a lot of times, like I see, like the tweet when Big Chief was saying, "Hey, there's this tweet that Big Chief did once," um, you know, and I'm like, this guys don't know that. I mean, they don't understand.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand what's happening. There are way more people doing stuff around here, right? But a lot of times when you hear people talk, it's like Ifedi, Barrister Ifedi just left my office, right? And I'm going to meet him after this time, right? And um, and we're just talking, right? When people talk about Nigerian startup ecosystem, they're basically just talking about Lagos startup ecosystem,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I keep trying to, and
Yeah.
I now sound stupid trying to let them know that you're only seeing a bit of the entire ecosystem, right? Because the
Yeah.
ecosystem is bigger than what you are seeing. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't get it. And so it's part of why we're having this conversation,
Yeah.
because I think that there's basically nobody telling the story from here, and that's why it's like that,
Yeah.
and that's why we
True.
felt like, why wait for somebody to come tell the story when we can? It's like what you were saying. A lot of times we're waiting for people to do the stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like that, but I'm beginning to understand that. Um, yes, I cannot do everything, obviously, but I'll try.
Exactly. Yeah.
Strategic things that I can try to do,
Yeah.
like this one, I know I can do. I can do this. So
Yeah.
let me do it, and then tell the story and show the people. I know a lot of people that when I bring them on this chat, people will be wondering, come on, are these people here? It's like the first guy, the very first person I interviewed on this program, right? People are, really? So Harry Ugoji, really? So that's what people have been sending me messages to say, really? And that's what it is, because they don't know. They don't know that
Yeah.
people are here doing stuff, But well, we'll keep going one step at a time.
Oh yes.
Thank you so much for what you do. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you and I appreciate your team. My regards to
Thank you.
Chima. My regards to Chima and the rest of the team. Well done.
Thank